Dr. Malone, we're here again. Today's Thursday, 26th of March, and we're talking again about coronavirus. What's the update today from the medical standpoint?
So locally, I'll just run the numbers as we've been doing. Big news that people have seen, I guess, two big numbers is as a country, United States now is the number one as far as positive cases. That happened this afternoon, upwards of 83,000, surpassed Italy and China both today. So that's one big news. And then 1,000 deaths in the country over the course of the night that have been linked to the virus as well. Neither are good stats. I guess they're landmarks to a certain degree. So put a pin on today's date as far as something that we continue moving forward to see where our trajectory goes. Locally, the state numbers got released within the last 5 minutes for the 6 p.m. Eastern update. Came out a little bit late tonight. And the state of Florida went from 1977 at the same time to 2484, with deaths from 23 to 29. And then the more granular level, Escambia County now has 20 confirmed cases from 17 yesterday. Don't have any details on the demographics of those 3 cases. And then on a local level as well, we did mention this yesterday that none of the hospitals are reporting any treatment of either for those are presumed positives. Well, this afternoon, Baptist Healthcare came out and released a statement stating that they have 2 presumptive positives they're treating in Gulf Breeze Hospital over in Santa Rosa County and 1 in downtown in Pensacola here. So that's a new update as well. Their statement is thorough and reflective of the ongoing I guess, efforts to try and treat this the best way possible and limit the exposure to for patients at the facility. So that's the numbers. Any questions on that at all?
Yeah.
Guess not.
I had some questions. I had a couple of questions.
Yeah.
In regards to the ones that are hospitalized, is there a way to know exactly what their issues are at this point? Like what condition they're in? Are they in ICU? Are they in a regular room? How old are they? What kind of symptoms do they have? That kind of thing.
None of that's been released, and generally, I think that most hospitals won't release that information immediately, and maybe after the fact is really. But right now, it's way premature for a hospital, I think, to be releasing that information. So unable to tell right now.
And then the other question I had was, it seemed like the percentage of positive got higher because the number of tests didn't seem to rise that much, but maybe I misheard something, but it seemed like it went from 17 to 20.
So we had yesterday there were 17 positive tests that were resulted total in the county, and now there's 20 total resulted. The percentage is about the same. We're hanging right around positivity on what's coming out.
What was that number again? You broke up. What was the number again?
So we're still right around 7% as far as the positivity rate on the tests that are being resulted. As I mentioned last night, falls within the range between 7 and 12% of all the tests collect. That's where most of these locations are falling. I will say that the Sacred Heart location reports that they had like onwards of 1,700 tests since they started last Monday. And in the county alone, we only have about 300 resulted. So there's a lot of outstanding tests there. So if there were 1,700 tests done and you're 10%, it's not outside of reason to think that we're going to go up to close to 200 in the county as these things result in. So I guess my recommendation would be just assume we have 200 in the county, and so you don't feel shocked.
Just from the office perspective, we had, I guess we've had 3 people with symptoms. We've had 2 of the staff that have actually done the test. One got results today that she didn't have the test. She went and had a strep test, I think, and some other test, and they don't know what she's got.
Yeah, she had a negative test.
Yeah, and what's important, I think, for people to know is she was around somebody that was from California recently, that had traveled recently, and I think there was a New Orleans connection, and so she was like convinced that she had COVID, and she didn't. So she was having the symptoms, the fever, the sore throat, the coughing, shortness of breath, and it turns out she doesn't have it. So I think that's important for people to know that, look, there's a lot of other stuff going on right now, allergy wise, and a lot of other things you typically have anyway. And so just because you're having symptoms that are akin to or similar to those that the virus brings, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to test positive. So FYI, even if you've been around somebody that's been in California or New York or wherever. So, which is I think telling. The other thing is, just on a last note, the firm is trying to function as best as possible with the distance issues we have. I think I mentioned yesterday that only in the more serious injury and death cases do the clients seem to want to come in. But today, for instance, we were able to meet with several just injury clients, motor vehicle accident clients we used FaceTime with a couple of the motor vehicle cases today. And then we had Zoom for a couple of other motor vehicle cases. And then you and I actually had a consult with a potential medical malpractice case via a group, was that FaceTime, right? A group FaceTime.
Yeah, there was 3 of us on there, and it worked out great.
Right. And so that's working great for the clients. They don't have to leave and their house, and they're wherever they are, and they feel safe and away from germs, and they don't have to come out and do things and touch handrails and worry about who's touched that handrail before them, or doorknobs and bathrooms, and they can just stay in their house. So I think it takes a lot of fear off the table as far as getting out of your house. One of the things I was thinking about, because one of my clients was like, I didn't want to go to the doctor after the wreck the hospital, because I didn't want to go to the hospital and be around all those people. And I think people need to understand that they have these testing centers separate and apart from the emergency room on purpose. They don't want their emergency room to become contaminated with all the people going to get testing. Like for Sacred Heart's testing, it's 2 blocks away. I'm not sure where they have the Baptist Gulf Breeze set up or the Baptist Main, but my suspicion is it's not like attached to the emergency entrance. So, Evan, do you know any more about that? Where the testing?
In some of the statements that have come out indicate that normal entry points are being, channeled through more common points. And at those common points, think of going to the airport, there's like a TSA checkpoint where if you're going into the hospital, they ask you what you're going for. And if your symptoms align with something that would be a viral infection, you're being triaged to be tested elsewhere so you don't expose anybody else. If you're in there because you say, hey, I fell and broke my arm, then you're going to take care that you need, make sure that you get in there safely and you're not exposed, or none of your family are exposed to any potential virus. So they are doing all that to triage people even before you get into the building, as opposed to triaging when you get into the waiting room. So if you need care, go.
I think some of these car wreck clients are concerned that they're going to be in a hospital where this virus has been dealt with, and they're potentially going to touch a seat or touch especially if they have risk factors. One of these clients today was COPD, and she was concerned about going to and a heart issue. And she was concerned about going to the emergency room itself because, in your head, you're thinking, well, there's a bunch of, coronavirus people that are sitting in these chairs and sitting in this waiting room and maybe behind me in the waiting room. And I think people need to know that, the hospitals are doing a really good job of not only sanitizing the emergency room waiting area, I'm sure right now, but they're also segregating anybody that has potentially that illness from the emergency room. So
yes.
The other legal thing that's going on is that, you have 14 days in Florida after a car wreck to get this treatment. And if you don't get the treatment in the first 14 days after the wreck, you lose your PIP benefits. So it's really important, not only for insurance purposes, but for legal purposes elsewhere, even unrelated to the PIP benefits, for you to get the treatment that you would normally get. Because if you wait 4 days and go to the hospital on the 5th day, that's within the first 14 days. So for PIP, you're still good. But for purposes of the case, if it turns out to be a lawsuit or a claim, the insurance company is going to be like, well, wait a minute. Why didn't you go to the doctor, during those first 4 days? And of course, with this going on, we'll all remember that. But they're going to try to make an argument that you really weren't that bad off. And then the thing that really is a problem is if, let's say you have a car wreck this afternoon and you decide, you know what, I'm not going to go to the ER right now. I'm going to wait until Sunday night or when I think it's going to be not that crowded. I mean, it's bothering me. My neck bothers me, but I'm just going to wait. And then let's say Saturday, you're doing something at your house and you fall and hurt your neck, completely unrelated to the wreck, but you fall and hurt your neck again or your back. And now you've basically inserted into this, even if it's not a major injury at your house, you've now inserted into this a defense for the insurance company to not pay attention to your injury as much or not connect it to the wreck as much because, oh, you didn't go until after the second event. And that must have been a more serious event, the thing that happened at your house on Saturday versus the car wreck. So I'm telling all my clients, look, I know it could be scary, but unless you have risk factors, and with people with risk factors, I think it's smart to consider when you go to the ER, call them before to make sure you have risk factors and where you should go, what door you should use. Make sure, this is, you're not going to be in the waiting room with other people, which I'm sure they're not going to have that happen. Of course, your other option is to go to your private physician. If they'll see you after a car wreck, most won't, unfortunately. Urgent care center, if they will see you. The ones here locally typically don't see car wreck people, but my suspicion is these events have maybe loosened those rules a little bit, but you certainly want to call first. And of course, if you have other questions about car wreck stuff, you can find us on the web at zarzaurlaw.com or call us at 855-HIRE-JOE. But Dr. Malone, did you have any other pieces of coronavirus information you wanted to share with the audience tonight?
Yeah, a couple of things. So the ibuprofen or the Advil issue, it came up after last night when we were on, and we answered that in the comments section. And I just want to reiterate that none of the information has changed. The information we put in the comments is the same. And there was thoughts that ibuprofen use would perhaps make someone's symptoms or their presentation worse if they were a positive COVID infection. And right now the CDC does direct tie. So that is not necessarily anything that's been confirmed right now. So if you do have a fever, though, this is the important point: is don't ignore your fever by don't try to mask your by taking something that reduces the fever until you get a diagnosis. So if you're having a fever, go get worked up. And if you got the test taken, you're waiting for it, then treat your fever. But don't treat your fever short of being worked up or diagnosed. And I'm talking about a fever of like 102, 103, 104. Don't sit at home and take a bunch of Tylenol. The Tylenol would be the drug of when you don't have any liver dysfunction as any other comorbid condition. The other two quick things is there's a lot of information in the news, and this came up as far as a question where in New York, they're talking about ventilator supply and the prospect of using one ventilator for more than one patient at one time. And I'll just let everybody know that this has been around for a while, not new. So the physicians who will be dealing with this, they're probably eager and willing to offer this service for the people that need that. And it's very complicated. It's not as simple as just splitting a tube like you're going to put an extra hose adapter on your home. There's much more to it than that. And I look forward to some of the innovation that's available should the need arise that the medical community can offer. And if you look around, there's some stories out there where there's actually one ventilator for 4 patients. There's been trials done with that. And so there's some room for flexibility there, but again, it's very complicated. So when people are bringing that up, just know that it's real, and it's a demonstration of we've come with medicine. And then lastly, pregnancy. There's been a couple of questions about, what does this do to a woman who's pregnant? Right now, the CDC treat a woman who's pregnant as if she's at increased risk of the infection. And then as far as passing it on there's no test right now, no confirmation that shows that the virus gets into either breast milk after the baby's born or in the amniotic fluid during pregnancy.
Okay, well, that's good news. Somebody's working some research overtime to get that information that quick, right? I mean, somebody's doing some.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I guess that's really good. We have a question from Facebook. What are some things that we can do to keep our immune system strong if we get the virus?
if you get the virus, that's a tough one to answer. If you get the virus, other than really rest, stay hydrated, and keep your nutrition up. The people that are infected that feel poorly feel poor. So it's very easy to say, I'm going to sleep this thing off and stay in bed for 4 days. That is not good for your entire system. So trying to keep some nourishment, be it fluids, be it the comfort foods that you're able to keep down, that you're have an appetite for, things like that. So having a caretaker of some sort. I'm not saying someone is exposing themselves to you, but someone who some food for you, deliver some food for you, stuff like that. That would be my recommendation if you're a confirmed infection. Prior to even being in this community and doing everything that they're recommending as far as the distancing. And I saw something today where we shouldn't call it social distancing because you and I are being social now. We should call it physical distancing. So with distancing, practice all of that, but then be smart. Try to be active. And there's tons of people out there that are doing alternative types of physical exercise, whether it's in their home or in their yard, around their neighborhood. So continue to do that stuff. We need that as humans. We need that to keep our system balanced. And then obviously a healthy diet. A lot of people living off of the basic necessities, I guess, if they're getting to a store and that's all that's left. Well, just rest assured our food is fortified, so you're not getting malnourished. Just make sure that you keep a balanced diet. Try to remain on a sleep-wake cycle that is normal for you. If you get out of whack with that, then your whole all of your cortisol levels, things like that help that work in concert with your immune system, leave you at risk, I guess. So nothing's gonna protect you completely, but you can do everything in your power to stay as healthy as possible.
Very good. All right. Well, if you have other questions, you can put them to Facebook this evening. You can obviously find us on the web, zarzaurlaw.com. Info, if you want a private email kind of question, info@zarzaurlaw.com. We'll be back tomorrow afternoon with another update on the coronavirus. We appreciate y'all tuning in. And Dr. Malone, stay healthy and safe, and thank you very much.